Hello, my name is Andrew Hochradel. Today we're going to be hanging out and I'm going to be showing you how to do some experimental photography editing over here in Lightroom and Photoshop. If you have not tried to get weird with Photoshop, to do some just random stuff, this is the stream for you. We're going to be hanging out and doing that for the next hour or so together. If you've never met me, hi, I'm Andrew Hochradel. I love doing brand identity design, but I also love doing photography as a hobby. So we are going to be showing off some of that photography today, as well as just doing some weird stuff. And I'm really excited to kind of stack things. Want to say hi to everybody in chat. Oliver, Ahmed, nice to see you. We have Robert here. Oh boy, here we go. Massimiliano, hello, nice to see you. If you're watching the replay, it's nice to see you as well. Be sure to join us for a live stream, behance.net/Adobe Live. All right, let's hop in, chat, and get started here. I'm gonna pop my headphones out because I don't need them. Y'all can listen to the music. I want to listen to myself. So we are going to hop in and we're starting here in Lightroom. And what we're going to do is in Lightroom, we are going to try to kind of just get some general corrections right, and then take it into Photoshop to do some double exposure effects, to do some gradient maps, and really play around with a lot of different things. So this is a photo shoot that I did out in the desert. We did a lot of kind of random shots. I brought some fabric out there, so we got these kind of like creepy desert shots, some really like odd kind of orientations. We got some mirror action happening here, some out of focus stuff. So these are already kind of ethereal photos, and we're going to see if we can make them even more odd and see if we can get some really crazy stuff going here. So let's start with this photo because I think it would be nice. I think what I want to try to do is put some kind of like galaxy look here. And I also might want to remove her from the background and see what we can do with the background, or if we can do maybe a little double exposure effect on this. So first thing that I want to do is I definitely want to try to mask her to be much less yellow. So it's super easy here in Lightroom. All I need to do is come over to my masking panel right here on the right. And from there, it is going to pop up and we can do subject. So we're gonna click here. It is going to find the subject for me, which is really helpful. And then it will create that mask. So it is detecting the subject, it found it, and it's creating the mask. Really good. And the biggest thing here is I wanna pull that yellow out. It is very yellow. So I'm gonna pull the temperature down a little bit and get a little more blue in there. And you can see that we've evened out the photo a little bit so it doesn't feel as sunsetty. And I do want the exposure maybe to go up on her a little bit, a little more contrast, highlights up, and it still looks a little bit blue to me. So I'm gonna pull it, a little bit yellow. So I'm gonna pull it a little bit more into that blue. And you can see there that we've got a much more even skin tone here. We can turn this on and off and it'll kind of toggle. Oops. Let's see, where do we, I'll just delete it and then I'll undelete it. So you can see here, if I delete this, it is very yellow, which we don't want. So I'm going to undo that, and we kind of balanced it out a little bit, which is looking good. Overall, I want to add a couple adjustments to this image in general. I do want to increase the contrast here. And then I do want to bring some of these shadows down, highlights up, get a little bit more contrast. And I am going to fix the yellow in her face. It's getting a little much, but we'll do that in Photoshop. So we're just doing some general adjustments here. And I do want to increase the texture a bit and the clarity a little bit, right? That's going to give us a lot to work with kind of the tones that we want to see. I don't want to add a vignette, but we will add some grain on here. Actually, let's not add the grain yet because I want to do that in Photoshop. So I'm thinking through what will be easier to do in Lightroom versus Photoshop. So Lightroom is really good for light. Again, we're adjusting the brightness, the darkness, the contrast, the temperature. It's a lot easier to do that in Lightroom very quickly. We can do it in Photoshop, which we will, but it's a little bit easier to start in Lightroom and then go into Photoshop. So I'm gonna right click and then we are going to edit in Photoshop. And that's gonna allow us to just open Photoshop and edit directly in there. Now I do want it to open in the Photoshop beta, and let's see what happens here. I think it is cool. So if you haven't used the Photoshop beta before, it is available to everybody. You just go to the Creative Cloud app, click on beta, and you'll be able to see what is available to you. And hopefully you'll have the Photoshop in there with generative fill and some adjustment presets. So let's continue on here. And this is where I want to start playing around and see if we can get some effects going. The biggest thing that I want to do is I know that I want to be able to select her as an object, and I think that I'm going to play around with maybe trying to get some of this yellow out of here, but I know I need a clean selection. So we never want to destroy our original photo, so we're going to hit Control or Command J, and that's going to make a copy of the photo. From there, we're going to go to Select, and we're going to go to Subject, and it is going to find that subject. It is going to mask her out for us right there. All right, got a pretty good mask there. And we could go to select and mask to get kind of the hair and the details, but we're fine for now. So we're gonna hit got it, and then I'm just going to mask that real quick, and let's see how well that did. Pretty good here on the mask of her. Even the hair is looking really good. If we zoom in here, you can see we did pretty well with the hair and everything. I am going to take the fuse off of this and try to pick up the fuse, but I'm gonna go ahead and just erase that out. And I'm using the brush tool here. We're using the brush tool, B is the hotkey, and we're just going ahead and masking this out. And someone is asking in chat, a great question from chat, in Light, this photo is generated, or I can download it from any website and open it in Lightroom. So if you're looking for images to edit with me, you can actually go to stock.adobe.com/free and then open that in Lightroom. And the difference between Lightroom and Photoshop, we just went into Lightroom, right clicked, and then went to edit in Photoshop. And so that opened it up in Photoshop for us. So now we're here in Photoshop, looking good to me. Let's go ahead and start getting a little bit weird and wonky and see what we can come up with for this photo. So I think I'm going to put her on a white background for now, and I may bring back some of the elements, but we're just going to put her on white to kind of get an idea of what we can do. So we're just making a new layer, and then I'm going to use the paint bucket tool to fill in with white. So right there. So it looks pretty good. I think there's a little bit of blue artifacting around her hair, but I'm not mad about it. Not a huge deal. And then it looks like a pretty clean mask. We could go in and clean it up a little bit, but we're going to be putting stuff over, so it doesn't really matter that much, because we're going to try to mix it up a little bit. Sorry, there was a weird sound outside my window, and it was just a dog. All right, so we're going to duplicate this, and let's go ahead and see if I can get the smoke out of this photo. So I'm going to delete our mask and see if I can select just this smoke. And what I'm going to use is I'm going to use the object selection tool. And from here, the object selection tool will detect everything in the photo, but I'm going to kind of click and drag and see if it will grab this smoke. I'm not fully confident that it will. Smoke is really hard to mask, so we may need to go in here and kind of do some adjustments. All right, it did a pretty good job there. I am not mad. So we're going to make the mask there, and it looks pretty good, but I do want it to be a little bit less sharp, like a little less contrast, a little more ethereal. So we're going to right click here, and then we are going to go to select and mask. This is going to allow me to grab the edge tool right here, and the refine edge brush is going to allow me to, again, refine that edge. So we're going to come in here, and let's go ahead and, grab this selection. Let's turn these off, and then we'll zoom in here, and then we can right click and we can just go to select and mask. And let's turn on, actually, that's probably fine. Let's go in here, and we're going to try to get just a little more of that smoke. So you can see there that when I come in with this refining brush, if I click, it is going to give me more of that refined kind of soft edge, right? Looking really good there. And I'm just going to run this over the edges, staying in the center so that I don't get too much picked up, but it is going to soften everything for me. I got a little bit too much of the hand there, so I'm just going to kind of hit that. There we go. A little bit here, and then make sure I have some up here. If you want to, you can play around with the transparency. So here we can take this transparency up, and it's actually going to show you that it is adding in all those little pieces. So I do want to take away some of this. Actually, it's taking away too much. So I'm going to add back in. It's looking like it's cutting out here. Make sure that's brushed in. And then we have a lot of this kind of ethereal smoke here, but it looks like it's a little too much. So I'm going to kind of just refine it down a little bit and see if that helps. I'm also softening my brush using the bracket keys. I'm just going to continue to refine this out just a little bit. There we go. All right, that looks pretty good to me. We're going to hit OK. And then from there, we have our refined selection. And you can see that smoke is much softer, much more ethereal, and kind of gives us a lot less of that hard edge. I could play around here a little bit and refine, but I think we're going to be fine because I'm going to use this to just overlap and make that connection. So again, we're just using black and white here to kind of paint in and paint out. Ooh, I lost a lot of... I lost a lot of pieces, but we're going to paint this back in on the layer underneath just so we don't have that hard separation. So again, we're just using white here, and I'm just going to click to kind of paint this in. And that way we have, there we go. Nice little smoke coming through. All right, so let's say that we want that smoke to be a galaxy, and this is where it's going to get really, really fun. Let's go ahead and go to Adobe Stock, and we are going to find a galaxy. So we can go to stock.adobe.com, and then we are going to go to /free. That is a place to be. So stock.adobe.com/free, and we are going to type in galaxy. All right, and I want something very like starry. I think that this is going to be good. Actually, let's do this one. So I'm going to license this, and then I'm going to bring it into Adobe Photoshop. So give me just a second. It'll log me in. It always logs me out of Adobe Stock, and then I have to log back in. So let me log back in real quick, and then we will be able to just flip back over. I'll download it, and we'll be able to throw it into Adobe Photoshop. So fun. Hold please. We're logging in. We got this. We got this together, chat. If you have any questions or if you have any suggestions for our kind of experiment today, go ahead and put them in chat and let me know. All right, we are back. So let's go ahead and license this photo, and then I'm going to drop it right over our image. So we're going to go back into Photoshop, and then I'm just going to click and drag that image in. You can see here, we can just drag that right into Photoshop, and we're going to put it over that smoke. We're actually going to put her on top of all those layers, and then we are going to add that smoke. So something that we can do, which is really good, is because we refined that edge and we have a very kind of soft mask, we can actually lock this galaxy onto the smoke. So watch what happens. I'm going to hold Alt or Option in between these layers, and when I click, it is going to lock that galaxy directly into the layer. Oops, I'm on the wrong layer. Let's go ahead and move those. There we go. So it is going to lock it into the smoke layer, and you can see that it's already picking up those nice little kind of subtle edges. So we're going to zoom out here and just use Control T, which is the transform tool, to really align this and see if we can get some nice galaxy coming off of there. All right, so that already is looking good, and the reason that it's working is because we have a nice soft mask using that refine edge tool on the smoke, and then we have locked this content right here, this kind of this galaxy into the mask, which is just the smoke, which is that soft mask. So I don't love this on white. I actually might want this on black, so we're gonna go ahead and invert this and see how it looks. All right, I already like it a lot better on black, and it's hiding a lot of the weird edges that we have here, which is helpful. Now, there is a lot of blue that is happening around the edge. So if you see like right here, this blue edge is a problem for me. I don't like that. Here's a quick way to really fix that in just a few clicks. So all you need to do is control click to make your selection. So we're gonna get our marching ants, and then we're gonna use the contextual toolbar right here to go and right here, refine that edge. We are going to contract that selection by 1 pixel, and we're gonna hit OK. We might need to go one more. So sometimes you need to go 2 pixels. And you can see that we've gotten rid of that blue edge. So now what I do is I come back to my mask. I'm going to invert it right here using the contextual toolbar. And then I am going to, actually, let's uninvert it. I was gonna paint it out, but it'll be easier to just delete the mask and then remask. There we go. So now you can see we got rid of that little edge, which is great, but there is still some blue that is bleeding over. Now, this is going to be another very, very easy fix. All we need to do is come in here. Actually, doesn't matter because we are going to be putting something over her, which will kind of just be fine. So I am going to try to get more stars, kind of star glow over this galaxy. And something that we can do is we can use different colors and we can use blending modes to really make this pop. So what I'm going to do right away is I'm going to Control-Shift-N to make a new layer. And once we have that new layer, we're going to leave all the settings here for now. And then I'm going to start just painting in some very broad color strokes. So we're using a soft brush here, using those brackets to make it a large brush. And we're going to make a very soft brush. And I'm going to kind of just start grabbing some colors. We've got some pinks here. We're going to make these really, really broad. Kind of just hit some little pops here and there. And maybe we want some nice blues, like a nice little teal in here. All right. And then maybe a little bit of that fiery orange. So we're going to do a couple things here. The first is that I'm going to change the blending mode here to, let's kind of scroll through and see what works best. So let's see. All right, overlay soft light. One of these is going to work the best because it's going to bring that light and make it really glow. So we're going to scroll through. Let's go ahead and do let's do overlay here. That's going to give us a nice kind of dark look, and then we can add some glow on top of it. So we are going to hold Alt or Option again and just lock that down. So now you see it's not bleeding over into her arm, which is what we want, which is helpful. So let's go ahead and add a double exposure on her. Let's put her, let's do like a space scene, like a big space kind of galaxy on her. And we're going to do a couple things to achieve this effect. The first thing that I'm going to do is, again, I'm coming to Adobe Stock and we're just going to find a good stock photo of space. And I think that this one might work. So we're downloading that, and then we're going to bring it back into Photoshop. We are going to need a selection of her, which we already have, and we are going to drop that stock photo right into our file. So downloads, and we are going to drop that right on top. And from here, we are going to lock that again, but not to the smoke layer. We are going to drag it down and lock it to her. So we're locking right there, and you can see we're already filling in her space with this galaxy. Right, and I need to figure out the orientation. I think that this is where we want it to be, and maybe get that star right there, and we can put a star over it. I think the momentum here is really nice with the hair as well. And someone's saying start in Lightroom, then transform to Photoshop. Yes, that's where we've been. Lightroom isn't great about compositing like this, and so that's why we're using Lightroom to really get a kind of soft and clean composite. So I think this looks great, and I think it has a really cool effect, but I want to bring back some of her. So let's play around with creating a unique effect that is kind of a double exposure effect. So if we scroll through here, you can see as we darken and multiply, it's going to make everything darker, and that's not necessarily what we want. Lighten is only going to take the lightest points of the composition, which isn't bad. I'm not mad about that. Screen, these are going to really bring out the light parts. So I actually like hard light a lot. Scroll through and see if there's anything else. I like hard light a lot. So we'll leave hard light on here. And what I want to do is maybe get her a little more monotone so we can get that double exposure effect really coming through. So we are going to do two things that are gradient maps. Gradient maps help us take the darks into one color and the lights into another color. So if I want to put it here, we can go gradient map. And you can already see that it turned her orange, but we are going to take her down to grayscale, and this will allow us to get a nice little double exposure effect. So double click here, and then we are going to take her down into a grayscale, and you can see that now the galaxy is just coming through to exactly where she wants to, exactly where we want all of the colors to stay, right? And so I think I've made it a little dark. I do think that I want to have a little more of her skin kind of coming through. And then if we want to adjust the darkness or the exposure of this so that we get a little bit more of her, we can just bring this in darker. And you can see that we're getting this nice kind of double exposure look. We can maybe bring a little bit here to get some contrast. Nice. All right, that's looking pretty cool to me. I might want to take this to like a blue and see what happens, because I think we had some interesting looks when we went to the blue. Ooh. Okay, that's pretty cool. I need it to be a little bit softer. All right, I think that's looking pretty good. And the next thing that I want to do is maybe on this galaxy, I want it to be a little less vibrant, is we can add another gradient map here, and we're going to lock that onto the galaxy, right? And so we're going to lock that onto the galaxy, and that is going to allow us to kind of control the overall tones of that galaxy. Now, we have a problem, and that problem is that this gradient map is now augmenting everything below it. We don't want that, and so what we're going to need to do is break everything up into groups. So we are going to put this here in a group, and then we're going to put this here in a group. So we have the gradient map on the bottom and a gradient map here on this galaxy as well. And the problem is we only want this gradient map to affect this one, and this gradient map to affect this one. So, Andrew, it's getting really weird still. Yes, it definitely is getting really weird still. Oops. Oh, I definitely hit the wrong buttons. Let me go undo real quick. All right, so we want this one to lock here, that one to lock there, and we'll group these together. So that looks okay, but it needs to be locked into her body, right? And so let's just go ahead and grab the mask that we have here of her body and put it on this galaxy as well. And now we have a nice mask onto the galaxy. So you can see we've got this really cool kind of galaxy floating over her. And it looks a little bit too blown out for me. So we are going to drop this into a nice blue. All right, not mad about that. And then let's maybe augment. Actually, I don't love the color on this. I want that. I want this. And then let's add in some of the color that's happening on top here with the same effect. So we are going to add in some color on her, and we're going to put that right above this gradient map. And that will allow us to make sure that it isn't getting too much of her skin tones, but it is picking up that black and white. So we're going to make a new layer one more time. Put that right above this group, and then just start painting in some of these gorgeous colors. And what's nice is because I still have this layer, instead of making it an overlay, I can unattach these things and kind of grab some of these colors here. So I'm gonna use the eyedropper to grab similar colors, and then just go back down to our layer and start painting them in over her. So that's a lot of blue, but that's fine. We can paint in some of this pink as well. Some nice bright hits of those pink, and then maybe some of this orange as well. All right, this is gonna look pretty cool. Let's put a nice orange up here. So we have now two layers that we need to relock. We need to lock this one to the galaxy, again, holding Alt or Option, change the blending mode to overlay. And then for her, we need to do the same thing. So we need to come down here and need to lock this onto that group, and then change the blending mode to overlay. We might actually do soft light on this one. Oh, let's do overlay. All right, so we've got a really cool look here. I am not mad about how this is turning out. I do want to have more contrast on her though. And so what we can do is, again, we're just using this gradient map to adjust the tones. So I am going to bring this more down into that gray zone and get kind of a soft gray going to increase that contrast to match what's happening with the smoke. So I think that matches the contrast pretty well. And now let's go ahead and add some things on top, right? Just kind of start stacking some elements. And if I want little details like this hand to be a little bit brighter, we can actually just do a dodge and burn. But I'm gonna put a star in here real quick first, and then that way we can kind of just start adding things on top. So I'm going to look for something that is nice, bright stars, which maybe is something like this or something. I need like a darker background with some stars. Let's see here. Bright stars in space. And this is really great about Adobe Stock is there is the free option. You can find pretty much anything you want here. And we can kind of, I want something that looks like a glowing star to kind of place around her. And we're just going to use soft brush to kind of mask it out so that it kind of floats there. And I actually liked these. We can work with this. We can work with this. All right, we can work with this. We're going to license this one, and then we are going to play around with it to kind of get some of those elements out of the photo and onto our composite. So let's put her. Also, chat, if you have a suggestion of what you want to see in this photo, more so actually where you want to see her, what settings should we have in the background? Let me know. I'm not mad about it being space. Kind of looks kind of cool. But I am going to start masking out some of these star elements. I'm going to put this at the very top, and then we're going to change the blending mode to screen. And what screen does is it's going to take away all of the light area and just leave the dark area. So the thing with screen is that you definitely need high contrast. You need something to be 100% black or 100% white. So you need to do either of those. So here's my suggestion to you. Let's go ahead and see what happens if we increase the contrast. And how can we increase the contrast, Andrew? That's right, we're going to do another gradient map. We click right here, go to gradient map, and then we're going to lock it onto just that layer of the stars. Now, right now it is purple and orange, which is not what we want. We want to go full black, and then we want to do maybe a nice white here. So I did like the way that there was some blue in there. So I'm going to add in just a little bit of blue by clicking right here. Actually, we want to go let's go right here and see what happens. I want the middle area to be blue. So let's go blue. Okay, that's going to turn everything blue. So basically what it's doing is the brightest parts are white, a little bit less is blue, and then a lot less is that black. So I'm actually going to pull this back and see if we can get just the edge to turn blue. There we go. So now you can see the brightest part is going full white, and the rest of it is that nice little soft blue, but I do want to keep the contrast of having the kind of blackness. And now I can kind of just paint in where I want these, which is really, really helpful. So we're going to make a group of these two and then just click on mask. And then I know that I do want to have one here to kind of cover that up. And what's nice is I literally can just come into this mask right here. We're going to grab a very, very soft brush, and we're just going to, that's right, just paint it out. So for this one, I don't want anything else. I really just want to focus on that one star and maybe a little bit around it. And thank you, Ahmed. Control plus line L to remove the sharp edges. So click here, kind of get this in. Might be a little bit too harsh of an edge, so I'm going to just lighten that up a little bit. There we go. So now we've got the star kind of floating just over there. And let's find some different places that we can kind of incorporate those stars. What's great is I can duplicate this. So we're going to do key star. Thank you, Control L. And then we are going to do maybe extra stars. So we're going to double click this and name it extra stars. And delete this mask. And you can see that's just going to make it so that this nice glowing mask is all over our photo. And we can blow this up so that we have stars over the whole photo. Already looking really, really cool. We got a little space goddess floating through the ether. And I might actually crop this a little bit once we get done, but I'm going to leave it here for now. Let's play around with maybe where we want to incorporate some of these and where we want them to go away, because I want to be a little bit selective in if we put a different background. So I do want to incorporate some over here. And so I'm just going to drag this over and make sure that we get some of these stars kind of floating over this smoke. And hopefully we can maintain some of that smokiness. A great way to do this, which would be really easy, is to just mask directly into that smoke mask we have right here. So let's try that, and that'll be a good starting point. So we're going to select that, holding Control and just clicking on the mask. We are going to mask that in. So that didn't do much for me. It's actually pulling too much. But what I can do is I can come in and I'm just going to use, again, a very, very soft brush. Control left bracket is giving me that brush. And we are going to paint back in some white. And you can see there, that it's giving us a really nice kind of extra galaxy there to follow along with this light. There we go. We got some stars, and maybe I want to change and have a little bit less. You can hold Control. Sorry, you can hit X to change back to black. Ooh, and blend if. That is a great suggestion. Great suggestion for kind of removing something. So another way to do this, if we wanted to play around with these stars. So let me go ahead and do a mask here. And let's go and put, let's put some more stars around her. So I'm just going to duplicate this star layer, and I want to show you what blend if does. We put this over here, and we have now normal. We're going to set it to normal blending mode, nothing special here, but we are going to use blend if. So we're going to bring this over just enough to make sure that it is covering her. And then we are going to right click on here, go to blending options, and then this is a great tool that pops up right away, and it is blend if right down here. So blend if gray, you can do red, blue, green. We can go, let's do blue and see what happens. So basically what it's going to do is as I pull this down, you can see that the lightest colors of blue are now getting masked out, right? And as I pull it further, then it's getting masked out more. Same thing here is we can blend it with the underlying layer so that the underlying layer comes through more, which is not what we want to do. So here, maybe we want that, right? Maybe that's cool and that's the vibe. It is hitting all the highlights right now, which is not what we want. But if we pull it here, it will hit some of those lowlights. Ooh. All right, that looks like for placement kind of where I want it to go. Now what I can change, actually, let's just use gray and I'll show you what that looks like. Here, gray gives us those stars so we can get a lot cleaner of a mask on some of those stars. Same thing with underlying layer. We can pull it into those shadows, but we don't. We want it to kind of be sitting on top. Now it looks a little weird, and that's because we have a very tight range. We can change that range by holding holding Alt or Option. There we go. And just starting to pull this, and you can see it gives us such a nice soft edge. And you can see those stars, let me zoom in here, have a lot of their colors still intact, and it doesn't look any different, right? And just to be safe, we could actually change this to screen as well. And when we change this to screen, it is going to take away all of those darkness. And now we have this really, really gorgeous, I'm actually just going to use this as the background, y'all. These gorgeous stars kind of floating above her with that nice blue color coming through. I like this a lot. This is looking good. Chat, what else do we want to see in this photo? I have some other things that I want to show you, but if there's anything else we want to see in this photo in particular, let me know. If not, I may just crop it and call it a day. I am not mad about how this turned out. I think it's looking pretty cool here. I do maybe want to add a little more contrast to her. I'm getting a little too much color in her skin, and I want to pull that out. So I'm going to look here at where her skin is. Interesting. Okay, so let's look at this gradient map and see what's going on here. It is blue. Maybe I want that to come down to a black. I'm not mad about it dropping all the way fully out. Oops. I'm not mad about it dropping all the way fully out. I think that looks okay. All right, so that looks good. Something else that we could do as well is we can put the gradient map on top of it. So if we wanted to, we could multiply and change the blending mode of the gradient map. I don't necessarily want to do that. Let's not use a gradient map here. Let's use a different adjustment layer. So I'm going to delete this, and then we are just going to click on adjustment layer, and we are going to do a hue and saturation. And that's going to allow me to bring that hue down, or the saturation down. There we go. That feels a lot more balanced. I do feel like we're still getting a lot of skin color in there. Oh, and it's because we have orange, chat. It's because we have this orange right here. So that's fine. I actually like it better without that orange right here. Now, there are some areas on the legs that I do want to darken. And what we can do is we can add one more layer on top. So we're going to hit Control-Shift-N for a blank layer and do a little hack here. We're going to go to Mode and go to Overlay, Fill with Overlay Neutral Color, hit OK, and now I can use something called dodge and burn. So doing dodge and burn is just O is the hotkey, it's right over here. And I'm going to click and drag to burn, and that's gonna make me allow things to get darker. And you see, as I click on her legs, let's go ahead and increase the exposure here. We wanna do highlights and burn them down. As I click here, you'll see that it's actually going to darken in these legs a little bit. I'm gonna click to kind of blend these edges out. All right, and then maybe we want to do, I think we call it. I think this is good. We can move on to something else. I do want to do some orange right here though. Or at least some kind of color there. Let's see if we get an orange right there, and then we try to lock it down here. There we go. Just paint in a little bit of color so that we have something to go off of. And then maybe this hot pink that we used before. Down here. And then some more of the pink kind of in the hair. All right. Oh, colorize. Yes, colorize is a great idea for that as well. And yes, we are going to add noise. So that is the last point in this photo is I am going to crop it in. Is we're going to use C to use the crop tool. And I'm just going to crop it in right here so that we have this very clean look at just her. We're almost hitting thirds. It's fine that we're not, so we can play around with that. All right, that looks pretty good to me. What I am going to do is I'm going to add noise, and then I'm also going to add a gradient map on top of everything. So we're going to go here and go to gradient map, and this is going to allow us to just get a nice kind of color grade. So we're going to reverse this, and then I'm going to change the blending mode on this gradient map, the whole thing, to maybe soft light. We could do multiply is going to make it too dark for us. And so let's go ahead and do soft light, and that will give us some nice kind of subtle textures. And from here, we can change these to be very, very light. You can see that it's toning this up with just a little bit of that color. So on the left are the darks, so we do want those to go to more of a blue. And then on the right are the highlights, and we do want those to go to maybe more of like a soft green. So we're going very, very light here, just to get some color tones, and that will bring everything together so that it feels like it's in the same universe. And maybe soft light isn't the right one for this. Maybe do a multiply color burn, and maybe it's just a little bit, maybe it's color here. I actually liked it the way that it was. Let's do divide, and then I'm actually going to take the opacity down to 50. And you can see the before and after. It's just giving us a little bit more of that contrast and really bringing it together. So from here, we can Control Shift N, and we are going to, actually, sorry, we're going to go Control, let's do it that way. Control Shift N for a new blank layer. We're going to do our same trick. We're going to go to Overlay, fill with Overlay Neutral, and hit OK. It is now set to overlay with a neutral color. Go to Filter, Noise, Add Noise. And now we can add in a bunch of noise. And when we hit OK, we can zoom in here and see that we've got all this nice little pretty noise. And what I actually like to do sometimes is blur just a tiny little bit. So we are going to go to Filter, Blur, and just do a Gaussian blur of like 0.5, 0.4. And that makes our noise a little bit less so that it's not as intense. So there we go. We've got some space composite going on here, which I think is really nice and kind of cool. Let's see one more photo that we can edit over here in Photoshop. So we're going to grab, let's do this one and see if we can change out her body for maybe some kind of like doorway. So we're going to edit in Photoshop. Actually, let's do our edits here first. We do want to brighten this. We could probably go auto here and see what happens, but let's click auto and see what happens. That's pretty much what I want. That's pretty close to where I want it to go. I do want a lot more contrast here. So I'm going to increase the contrast a bit, and then we're going to go into Photoshop. So now that we're in Photoshop, let's see what we can do. I do love the dunes back here, but I want to give them like a brilliant, like rich kind of red hue. And so I'm going to, again, just select the subject by going to filter, or sorry, select and go to subject. It will find our friend here. And we are going to mask that. Oops. Get over here. There we go. We're going to mask her out. That's a pretty clean mask to me. We are going to leave all those dunes in the background, but I'm going to keep kind of just duplicating so that I don't have, so I can break apart these separate elements and not have everything kind of stacked on top of each other. So I want the dunes to be red, and we're going to go ahead and try to select sky and see what happens. We're going to go select sky, and it should find the sky for me pretty well. That's pretty good. I'm not mad about it. So we are going to, again, just mask that in. So we turn this off. We have this sky right here, and then we have the subject right underneath, and then everything else is going to be just the desert. So we can grab the sky, we can grab the subject, and then we can invert that selection using the contextual toolbar right here. Let's pin you right there. We are going to invert that selection and then just make a adjustment layer. Excuse me. And on this adjustment layer, we're actually going to do a hue and saturation. This is going to help us kind of play around with just the reds and really bring it up so it has that Mars kind of look to it. So we're going to go to reds, and we are going to increase the saturation on those reds to give us that brilliant look of the desert. And then we may take the lightness down a little bit to give us more contrast. And then maybe shift those reds to be much more of a vibrant red. So that already is looking good. We could do, again, a gradient map on top of this as well. So we're going to lock it to that layer. I'm going to do one more gradient map, and this is going to go black, or sorry, this is going to go to red. And so we're going to come here, and let's maybe do, for the darks, maybe a dark kind of maroon red. And then for the lights, we're going to do just a super, super soft pink here. So that might look too intense, but it's not going to look too intense when we come in here and change the blending mode to color, or we change it to multiply to really darken those down. Color burn is going to be way too intense, but not if we take it down to maybe 30%. Just keep taking that up. All right, not mad about that. I think it looks pretty good. We may want to adjust the contrast there, but that's fine. All right, let's go ahead and see what to do about the sky. So I think the sky, maybe I want to do is like a galaxy. So let's, we've already done galaxy. Chat, what do we want the sky to be here? We definitely don't want it to be daytime. And so I'm going to, ooh, that sky looks really good with that toning. All right, we're replacing the sky, but I'm not mad about what just happened. Chat, where do we want this to go? What kind of sky do we want this to be in? I am going to do a displacement map over this kind of black part. And we're just going to select here, and then I'm going to deselect using the magnetic lasso tool. Just hold Alt or Option, and then I'm going to click and drag over her to kind of deselect all of this area. And now we have a nice little clean mask on this fabric kind of stuff. Made a mistake here, but what I can do, I didn't copy the layer first, but what I can do is I can come in here and we can make this a work path, and that way I can just save it. Oops. And now I have it as a path. I can duplicate this layer and come in here, and we're going to delete this. Go to paths, and we have our work path right there. So I just forgot to duplicate the layer, but I got it back. Someone's saying lightning. Thanks a lot, Andrew. I have to go. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining. It was a fun time. Nice to have you here. All right, so let's work fast. I'm going to do a gradient, or I'm going to do a displacement map, and we're going to do like a forest. I like the contrast of like a forest. Like something tropical. So we're going to come in here and we're going to do tropical leaves. Sure. I'm not mad about this one. So we're going to come into Photoshop, and we're going to do a couple things for a displacement map here. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to turn off every other layer. We don't need it. We just need this thing here. And then I am going to convert this to black and white using a gradient map right here. And we want to make sure that we have high contrast. So I'm going to bring the whites up quite a bit to make sure that we have some really good contrast on this image. So that already looks okay. We're gonna hit OK. William Blanco, nice to see you in here. Oh, I miss you. Nice to see you pop in chat. Hopefully we can see each other soon. Hi, nice to see you. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to save this as a displacement map, and we're just hitting Control Shift Save, and I'm going to name this displacement displace leaf. Sure, we'll put it on my desktop for now, and we're gonna hit save. So the reason we're making a displacement map is because I am going to displace the leaves on top of this. So watch what happens here. We're going to bring our leaves in right here, and we're going to put those over our subject. Ooh, these colors are going to look good together. All right, so now that's saved, we can have our subject right here, and I'm going to go to Filter, Distort, and Displace. We are going to choose our displacement map right here, which is Displace Leaf, and hit Open. And what it's going to do is it's going to... Oh. I don't know what that was. Let me go ahead and rasterize this and see. There's only one issue that I think it could be. Let's see here. Distort, displace, and upload our file here. Okay, interesting. I think that it's because our mode, yes, is 16 bits per channel. We're going to change this to 8 bits. That's not going to make any real change. And so I'm going to save this one more time now that it's 6-bit. And we are going to go to Filter, Distort, Displace, and let's see if it works now. We need it to be an 8-bit file. It worked. Oh, and the problem with it working is we saved over. Okay, let me go ahead and turn these off. Again, we need just this part. We are going to save displace leaf, right? That's going to be the map that we use, which usually I don't work on the same file, but here we are working on the same file. Now we can select our subject right here, and we are going to go to Filter, Distort, and Displace. Pick our displacement map, and boom. You can see that it's displaced on that kind of black part just a little bit. If we zoom in here, you can see that it's caught some of these edges, right? And that's really what we want. So I'm gonna do this one more time and see if we can get a little bit better. So there are settings that we can do here, and I'm just gonna increase these settings to like 20 by 20 and see what happens. There we go. So you've got a lot of kind of augmentation happening with this image because it's displacing to the highlights and lowlights of our composition. So let's go ahead and turn these back on, and then we are going to lock this into yes. So you can see we've got some really cool effect happening there. Ooh, I like that a lot. So I am going to try to bring through some of those lights and darks. And the way that you can do that is we are going to scroll through here. And when we darken these, we want to keep some of those highlights, but we want it to really play through. So lighten, screen, dodge. Actually, screen is probably going to help us, but I will go through and show all these options. Lighter color looks good as well. And we may have to go in and change the gradient map. So change the toning of what's on the bottom. Exclusion, not mad about that. So we're gonna do exclusion here. And then we are going to put just a little bit of contrast over this whole thing. So we're gonna group this. And then one more adjustment layer here. Increase that brightness down, contrast up. That's gonna give us some really nice look on there. Ooh, I like how that's looking a lot. All right, so it's looking good. Let's go ahead. Somebody had suggested to put lightning in the background. So we're gonna do like sky with lightning. And someone's saying that we might be buffering. You know what? We might be buffering because of the image size. That might be my fault. I didn't think about that. Let me look at the image size. Hold on, everybody. It's not that big of an image, but it is pretty big. So we're gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna change this to 150, and that should help us out a little bit. There we go. All right, let me know if anyone else has buffering issues. It very much might be because we're working with gigantic files. I'm gonna do the same thing over here. We're just gonna change that image size real quick. These are pretty big files. All right, 1 second, getting it. All right, we're good. All right, so coming back here, let's go ahead and put some lightning in the background. So we're gonna do like dark sky lightning maybe. I like this one. So let's do this one. And I don't care for the purple, but we can fix that pretty easily. So we're gonna bring that into Photoshop. And what's nice is, again, we have pieces of everything. So we don't need to worry about masking. We've already masked everything out and we have pieces of everything. We're gonna drop this in and then fill in this sky space right here. Ooh, this actually might look really good. And we're gonna bring it below and kind of lock it onto, actually that's fine for the sky. This is triggering LA people. No, tell me about it. Yesterday was wild. So we do want to lock it into the sky. And I'm actually just gonna use this mask that we have here to mask that in. All right, so that looks pretty good. I do want that to be blue. So we're gonna do a hue and saturation shift on it, lock it to that layer, and just shift it to be like a nice kind of blue. And I actually like that to get some contrast here. All right, so we've got some weirdness happening, but that's fine. Now, this is where it's gonna get really fun. We are gonna make this into like a super psychedelic image by adding one gradient map on top of everything. So this is where it gets really experimental and really weird, is we are going to go here and do gradient map, and then we are going to set a bunch of different points. So we're gonna click here, and maybe our darkest we want to be this dark, rich red, right? Very vibrant. Then a little bit lighter, maybe we want it to be a blue. So we're gonna take that to this blue. Ooh, that looks good too. We need to go a little bit lighter. So keep in mind, as you go up, you wanna keep going a little bit lighter, a little bit lighter, a little bit lighter. All right, looking good. A little bit lighter here. Maybe we wanna go into like a green category. And again, just a little bit lighter. And then one over here, let's go into yellow. Yeah, a little bit lighter. And then one more, let's grab an orange here. We need this to be a little bit lighter. Okay, I'm not crazy about the pink. All right, the orange is looking okay. So we're gonna hit okay there. And then we do want the top to be white. So we're just gonna kind of pull these around, and you can see that we can adjust how much of each thing we're getting within the image. So I think this is looking pretty okay. We're gonna hit okay. And then maybe just scroll through the blending modes to see what happens if anything is super interesting to us over this image. Love that. That looks really good. Soft light, not mad about it. A little too contrasty for me. But I actually really liked the way that one of these up here looked. Where were we? Lighten? I like lighten. So I really like the way that this looks. I think it looks really, really cool. And something we're gonna do is we're gonna do a high pass. And what I like to do with high pass is we're gonna hit Control Alt Shift E, and that will make a merged copy of our photo. We're gonna go to Filter, we're going to go to Other, we're going to go to High Pass, and this is just gonna give us some really, really kind of sharp contrast. I don't know how to describe it, but it'll give us a little bit of halo. If we change this to soft light, you'll see here, let me zoom in, and it's just like sharpening. So when we turn this off, we lose it, and then we turn it on, we get a lot more sharpness. And then maybe let's add in just a little bit of noise on top. Again, blank overlay layer, fill with neutral, and then we are going to filter, noise, add some noise in there, not that much, my goodness. Maybe 10%, let's blur it a little bit. And then that looks pretty good to me. So zooming out, already looking good. I do want to add a contrast adjustment layer on top of the whole thing. And if you ever look at a Photoshop file of mine, you'll know that it is always pure chaos. I like to stack my layers. Sometimes I will name them. Most of the times I will not. And so I think this is looking pretty good. I think this is a little weird here, but we only have 1 minute. And so I don't know if I can fix that, but I think it's fine. So this is what we created here. Let me go ahead and zone this up so you can really see. I think it looks pretty good, chat. What do you think? Think it looks pretty good? I think it looks pretty good. So I think this is good. And I think our first one, oops. Ooh, that got really intense. Look at this stare. That's pretty cool. And then the first one right here, we have created this nice kind of floating space woman. So that's some experimental editing for you. Toss some things on you, some blending modes, have fun, and I'll see you again for another stream. Bye, everybody.